I never imagined I'd be that girl, the one who suddenly got hot, left her husband behind like yesterday's fashion, and then turned around thinking, wait, maybe I want him back. Well, surprise. Here I am. I'm Maya, 31, and I'm about to tell you why the man I left won't even look at me anymore. It all started when I woke up one morning and realized I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. The tired, overweight, just getting by version of Maya had vanished, and what stood there was a woman who could turn heads without even trying. A woman who owned her body, her power, and frankly, her damn attitude. But here's the kicker, while I was busy transforming into the hottest version of myself, my husband, Jared, just stayed the same. Same job, same boring routines, same lazy indifference. Like he'd checked out long before I even started my glow-up journey. And I thought I deserved better. So I left. I didn't just leave. I left with fire in my heart and a new spring in my step. Because honestly, I was done being the before picture in our marriage. The girl who stayed home watching TV while he went out with his buddies. The girl who stopped trying because she thought love meant settling. I signed the divorce papers like a boss, packed my bags, and moved into a chic downtown apartment that screamed new beginnings. I worked out like crazy, ate clean, got that sleek bob haircut, and started dressing like I was already the woman I wanted to be, confident, sexy, untouchable. And for a while, it was everything I dreamed of. Men noticed me again. My phone buzzed nonstop. I was glowing not just because of the gym but because I felt alive, like I was finally living the life I deserved. But as the days went on, that shiny new life started to lose its luster. I realized something, no amount of attention or new clothes could fill the hole Jared left behind. I missed him. Not the boring Jared, no. I missed our weird little rituals, the inside jokes, the lazy Sunday mornings, the way he'd look at me like I was the only woman in the world even when I felt invisible. So, I started texting him. At first, just little things. Hey, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Saw that new coffee shop, thought you'd like it. No reply. Days turned into weeks, and my texts kept piling up like unanswered prayers. I told myself I was fine. That I was better off. But deep down, every silence was a slap in the face. That's when I made a terrible mistake. I decided I'd show him what he lost. Not with angry texts or desperate calls, but by being even more irresistible. I posted photos of my new life, the fancy dinners, the nights out with friends, the gym selfies that clearly said, "Look at me now." It was petty. I know that. But in my mind, it was justified. Jared had left me for dead emotionally, so I was going to remind him what he threw away. And then I saw it. A notification that he'd seen one of my stories but didn't reply. Just saw it. Ignored it. That broke me. I won't lie. I cried. I screamed at myself in the mirror. Why won't he want me back? I thought I was the catch, the upgrade, the woman every guy would want. But he? He was silent. And in that silence, I realized something. I didn't just lose a husband. I lost my own sense of control. You know that feeling when everything's spinning, but you're convinced you're the one holding the wheel? That was me, Maya, queen of my own chaotic castle. I thought if I just worked hard enough, shined bright enough, Jared would have no choice but to come running back. Like I was some prize on a pedestal and he'd finally realized he'd made a mistake. But life? It doesn't work like that. I started scheduling my days around my texts to him. Maybe I should wait an hour before replying, I'd tell myself. Or maybe if I post a story with that killer dress, he'll notice. Every little detail mattered, every message was a chance, or so I convinced myself. At work, I was distracted. During meetings, I'd sneak glances at my phone, hoping to see his name light up the screen. Nothing. Friends noticed. They asked if I was okay. I said I was fine, but they didn't buy it. I was spiraling, but I didn't see it. The real kicker? I convinced myself I was right to feel this way. I was the one who had grown, evolved. Jared was stuck in his predictable life, stuck without me. And if he wanted to ignore me? That was his loss. Not mine. I started dating again, sort of. Mostly to prove to myself, and maybe to Jared, that I was still desirable. I met guys who liked the new me, who wanted to take me out and show me off. But it wasn't the same. I wasn't looking for a connection. I was looking for validation. A reflection of the girl I thought I was becoming. And yet, every night, when I was alone, I'd scroll through old photos of Jared and me. The laughter, the fights, the lazy evenings. I'd remember the way he used to hold me like I was the only thing that mattered. I wanted that back. But I didn't want to admit it. I wanted control. I wanted power. I wanted him to see me, not just the hot, shiny new version, but all of me, the flawed, complicated woman who had somehow lost her way. I wanted him to regret leaving. To miss what we had. But he didn't. And that was the hardest pill to swallow. I told myself I was playing it smart. Strategic. Like a queen moving pieces on a chessboard. But really? I was just spiraling, blinded by my own ego and desperation. It started with little things. Sliding into Jared's social media DMs with the perfect mix of casual and flirty. Posting photos meant to catch his eye. Tagging places we'd been together. I wanted him to feel the sting of what he'd lost. No response. Not even a glance. Then I moved up my game. One night, after a few drinks, I messaged him from a burner account. Pretended to be someone new, someone fun, someone intriguing. I wanted him to chase me, to want me again. He ignored that too. That's when the frustration hit hard. I felt invisible. Betrayed. Like the universe had conspired against me, to let him move on so easily while I was stuck in limbo. And I hated feeling powerless. So I did something reckless. I showed up at his apartment unannounced. At first, I thought it was bold, a power move. But standing there, keys in hand, my heart pounding like a drum, I realized how much I'd lost myself. He opened the door, surprise flashing across his face before hardening into cold disbelief. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice low. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg. Instead, I said, "I just wanted to talk." He didn't invite me in. That night, I parked my car a block away, watching his place, hoping he'd come out, hoping for any sign he missed me. Hours passed. No sign. And that's when the plan took shape in my mind. I remembered his car, that beautiful, expensive sports car he'd bragged about for months. The one he kept polished like a trophy. The one that symbolized his new life, without me. If I could damage that, just a little, maybe he'd finally feel something. Maybe he'd realize I wasn't just some chapter he could close and forget. So I waited for the perfect moment. One night, after a party where I'd had too many drinks, I walked to his car, clutching a rock I'd grabbed from the curb. I didn't think about the consequences. I just acted. The first scratch was a whisper against the sleek paint. Then a dent. Then a shattering crack across the windshield. Adrenaline surged through me. I wasn't sorry. Not really. I was furious that he could just walk away, that he could erase me so easily. But the next morning, reality hit like a brick. Jared's furious calls. Threats of police. The looming court case. I told myself I deserved it. After all, he'd left me without a word. Without explanation. Without closure. And still, deep down, I knew I was digging a hole I might never climb out of. But at least now? I was visible again. The morning after the car incident, my head was pounding, but not from the hangover. It was from the weight of everything crashing down around me. My phone exploded with missed calls and texts from Jared. His number was blocked on social media, but somehow, his voice was relentless in my nightmares. "What the hell were you thinking? You're out of control." "I'm done, Maya." But I wasn't done. Not yet. I thought about how perfect things could have been if he just gave me another chance. If he'd just listened to my side. If he'd admit that maybe he hadn't been that perfect boyfriend after all. Maybe I wasn't the villain he painted me to be. At work, the rumors had already started. People whispered about the crazy ex who vandalized her husband's car. I pretended not to care. I laughed it off, telling my closest friend, Jenna, that they didn't understand the real story. Jenna didn't argue. She just gave me that look, the one that said she knew I was walking a dangerous path. I started missing deadlines. My mind was elsewhere, tangled up in plans to fix everything, or at least to make Jared regret leaving me. Then came the court date. Walking into that sterile, fluorescent-lit courtroom felt like stepping into a nightmare. Jared was there, looking calm, controlled, like he'd already won. The judge grilled me on why I'd damaged his property. I told a story full of half-truths and excuses. I didn't say I was angry, hurt, lost. I said he had abandoned me. I said I was pushed to the edge. But none of it mattered. The judge handed down a sentence: community service and mandatory counseling. Counseling. I hated the idea. Like some broken person needed fixing. But I went. Sitting in that tiny, uncomfortable room, listening to a stranger ask about my feelings and choices, I wanted to scream. "You have to take responsibility," she said gently. "You can't control others, only your own actions." I wanted to shout, "He left me." But instead, I just nodded. The truth? I was scared. Scared that if I admitted any fault, I'd lose whatever little control I had left. Scared that if I let go of anger, I'd have to face the empty silence Jared left behind. So I clung tighter. I poured myself into social media again, crafting a new image: strong, defiant, unapologetic. But late at night, when the screens went dark, and the silence crept in, I felt smaller than ever. One night, after a long day of community service picking up trash in the park, I found myself parked outside Jared's apartment again. I didn't go inside. I didn't call. I just sat, watching the light in his window flicker on and off, wondering if he ever thought of me. I told myself I was strong. That I could rebuild. That I deserved better. But I also knew the truth. That sometimes, being the right person doesn't matter. That sometimes, love just isn't enough. And that maybe, just maybe, I was the one who'd burned the bridge beyond repair. The nights were the worst. Not because I was lonely, that was obvious. No, it was the chaos in my head that wouldn't shut up. The voices blaming me, the memories looping endlessly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jared's face, cold, distant, done with me. Like I was some mistake he wanted to erase. I hated that. But worse than the hatred was the guilt. I didn't want to admit it, but it was there, gnawing at my gut like a wild animal. I had messed up. Big time. After the court hearing, the reality hit me like a freight train. Community service wasn't just a punishment, it was a public shaming. Every trash bag I lifted, every park bench I scrubbed, I felt the eyes of strangers judging me. That crazy girl who wrecked her husband's car. The thought made me want to scream. Counseling was a different beast. I dreaded those sessions, but they were oddly revealing. The counselor didn't sugarcoat anything. "You're hurting, yes," she said once. "But lashing out won't heal you." I clenched my fists. Why should I be the one to fix it? He left me. Her eyes were calm but firm. Because you can't control him. You can control yourself. I wanted to argue. To tell her she didn't understand the depth of betrayal, the sting of being discarded. But deep down, a small part of me knew she was right. At work, things deteriorated. I missed meetings, snapped at colleagues, and half-heartedly dragged through tasks. My reputation was tarnished. Promotions I dreamed of slipped away. And then, the text started. From Jared. At first, I thought it was a prank. A cruel joke. But the messages were real. Short. Cold. We need to talk. My heart pounded. The conversation was brutal. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He was flat. You destroyed what we had, he said. I can't forget that. I'm sorry it ended like this, but I'm done. I wanted to scream. To beg. To explain. But my throat was tight, and I was silent. Days turned to weeks. No response. No reconciliation. Just the deafening silence that screamed finality. I realized then, I had lost him for good. And with that loss came an avalanche of regrets. Why had I pushed so hard? Why had I thought wrecking his car would fix anything? Why had I believed I was right when I was clearly the one who broke us? But even in the darkness, a flicker of defiance remained. I wasn't just some victim. I was Maya. Flawed, yes, but fiercely alive. So I decided to fight. Not for Jared. Not for us. But for me. I would rebuild my life, on my own terms. And maybe, just maybe, find peace in the ashes. The days after the texts from Jared felt like the slowest kind of torture. Like the world was moving in fast forward, but I was stuck in this thick molasses, unable to catch up. Every morning, I'd wake up hoping he'd call or reply, please, just one text, but nothing. No explanation, no closure, no "I forgive you." Just silence. I started to notice things I hadn't before. The way my phone screen lit up and my heart skipped, only to fall into a pit of despair when it wasn't him. The way the mirror didn't lie, the tired eyes, the fake smile, the weight of my mistakes written all over my face. Work became my refuge and my prison. I threw myself into projects, desperate to prove I wasn't a total screw-up. But my mind wandered. I'd catch myself staring at my screen, lost in memories of what we had, or what I thought we had. My friends tried to help. They told me to move on, to date, to focus on myself. But every swipe on dating apps felt hollow. Every new guy was a pale shadow compared to Jared. And yet, part of me hated him. Not for leaving. For giving up. For treating me like I was disposable. For blocking me out like I never existed. One night, I found myself driving past his apartment. My heart hammered as I spotted his car parked there. I sat in my own car for what felt like hours, debating whether to knock on his door. Of course, I didn't. Instead, I texted him again. Please, just talk to me. I can explain. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. But that night, I realized something. It wasn't Jared I was fighting for anymore. It was me. Because if I couldn't find peace inside myself, no one else's love would fill the void. So I made a choice. A promise. To stop waiting. To start living. I deleted his number. Unfriended him. Even blocked him on every social app. That didn't make the pain disappear. Not by a long shot. But it was a start. Months passed. I went back to therapy, this time ready to face my demons. To understand my own role in the mess. To rebuild the pieces I'd shattered. Slowly, I stopped blaming Jared. Stopped seeing him as the villain. Because the truth? We were both broken. Both flawed. Both afraid. And maybe, that was why it didn't work. Now, I'm not saying I'm healed. Not yet. But I'm trying. Trying to be someone who owns her mistakes. Who learns and grows. who doesn't let pride or bitterness poison her future. Maybe one day, I'll find someone who sees me, all of me, not just the surface. Maybe one day, I'll look back at this chapter and know I survived it stronger. Until then, I'm here. Broken, bruised, but still standing. I used to think love was about passion, excitement, and that overwhelming spark that sets your soul on fire. But now, I see it's something far more complicated. Something quieter. Something that takes more than just chemistry. Love is about patience. About forgiveness. About showing up, even when it's hard. I walked away from Jared thinking I was choosing me. Choosing freedom. Choosing happiness. But what I didn't realize was I was running from myself. From the parts of me that were scared. The parts of me that didn't know how to be vulnerable without armor. I thought changing my appearance, dating new guys, and making Jared jealous would fix what was broken inside. Spoiler, it didn't. Because no matter how hot I got, no matter how many compliments I collected like trophies, the emptiness followed me everywhere. I wanted him to chase me. To prove I was worth it. To admit he made a mistake. But he didn't. He moved on. And honestly? He's better off. Jared deserves someone who loves him fully, not a half-hearted, self-absorbed version of me chasing validation. I'm not proud of the way I left. Or the way I acted. Or how much I hurt him. But I'm owning it. Because accountability isn't weakness. It's strength. I'm learning that real growth comes from facing your mess. Not running from it. So yeah, I left my husband after I got hot. But now? I'm trying to find my way back to who I was before all the drama. The real me. And maybe one day, I'll find someone who loves that girl. But for now? I'm learning to love her myself. It's a slow process, one that doesn't happen overnight or with a catchy Instagram caption. Some days, I still catch myself looking in the mirror and thinking, who is this girl staring back? The confident, glowing woman I see on the outside sometimes feels like a stranger inside. But I'm starting to realize that loving myself isn't about perfection. It's about acceptance. Acceptance of my flaws, my mistakes, and even my messy, selfish moments. Because those moments shaped me just as much as the good ones did. I used to think self-love was all about appearances, flawless skin, killer outfits, that perfect Instagram-worthy glow. But it's so much more than that. It's about forgiving myself for walking away from Jared. For all the nights I cried alone, drowning in regret and loneliness. For the times I hurt the people who cared about me the most, just because I was too scared to admit I needed help. I'm learning to sit with that discomfort. To not run from it. To ask myself why I pushed people away when what I really wanted was to be held. Therapy helped. More than I ever expected. It forced me to confront parts of myself I'd buried deep beneath the surface, my fears, my insecurities, the voice inside that told me I wasn't good enough. And here's the thing. That voice was wrong. I am good enough. Learning to love myself means rewriting the story I've told myself for years. No longer am I the woman who needed to be hot to be worthy. No longer am I the girl who thought she had to break things to feel alive. I'm becoming someone who understands that real strength comes from vulnerability. From asking for help. From choosing kindness, especially toward myself. I don't know what the future holds with Jared. Maybe we'll cross paths again. Maybe not. But what I do know is this. I don't need anyone else to complete me. I am whole, even with my scars, my failures, and my messy past. So yes, I left my husband after I got hot. But now? I'm learning to love the woman I was all along. The woman who deserves respect, forgiveness, and above all, love, from herself. And maybe that's the most powerful kind of love there is.